Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. Today we're going to kind of go behind the curtain a little bit and look at what happens when creative projects don't quite make it to the finish line.
Oh, interesting.
You know, sometimes we only see the successes, but we thought it'd be fun to kind of dig into these shelved projects, as they're called. You know, these albums and films and even TV shows that get started.
Yeah.
But never actually see the light of day. And we're focusing on Jennifer Lopez for this one.
Okay.
She's someone who, despite her incredible success, actually has a surprising number of these kind of hidden gems tucked away in her career.
That's right. It is a bit of a paradox, isn't it? I mean, you know, she's known for that drive, you know, getting things done.
Right.
But even with that level of ambition, sometimes things fall through the cracks.
Yeah. And that's what we're going to look at. So we've got a bunch of articles here. And one of the first things that pops up is this fully Spanish language album that was planned way back in the early 2000s. Por Primera Vez, it was called. And this was right when she was making waves in the English language pop scene. So
yeah,
Liz.
This is a savvy move.
Yeah.
You know, just from a purely business perspective, you think about it.
Right.
Tapping into that huge Latin market while her star was on the rise.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't just like a little side project.
Yeah.
You know, she was really involved working with top Latin producers, recording a whole bunch of tracks.
But then nothing.
Right.
Just vanished. The album just disappeared. Some songs were repurposed for other projects, but the full project never actually came out.
Interesting.
So it really makes you wonder what happened. Was it just a scheduling conflict?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this was peak J-Lo. She was everywhere. Movies, music.
Yeah, she was doing it all.
Everything.
Yeah, her schedule could not have been easy.
No.
But I think we also have to consider the timing, you know?
Yeah.
This was right when reggaeton was exploding, really changing the sound of Latin music.
Oh, interesting.
So maybe the album just felt a little bit dated compared to this new wave.
Yep.
So maybe they made a strategic decision to just hold back and kind of reassess.
That's a good point. I mean, her 2007 Spanish album, Como Ama Una Mujer, was a massive hit. So maybe Por Primera Vez just needed a little more time to find its footing in a changing musical landscape. It's so interesting to think what could have been if it had been released back then.
Right. Could have been a totally different...
Yeah, would it have altered her
trajectory
career in some way?
Yeah. And that's a question we can only speculate on.
Right.
But it really shows how even with the best intentions, even with A-list talent, sometimes these external factors can just completely derail a project.
Absolutely. Okay, so we go from this potential musical breakthrough to Carmel, which was this film that she was attached to in the mid-2000s.
Okay.
And it was set in this kind of like wealthy California town, but it wasn't another rom-com.
Right.
This was a dark psychological story.
Interesting.
And J-Lo was all in. From what we read, she spent months preparing, really getting into the headspace of this very complex character.
Interesting.
She was ready to showcase a different side of her acting ability.
I see.
But then the production just completely fell apart. Budget issues, clashes with the director, creative differences. It all just came crashing down in the middle of filming.
Oh, wow.
And now we have this big mystery.
Yeah.
Footage exists somewhere, locked away, unseen.
Oh, man, can you imagine?
What could have been?
What those scenes might have shown us.
I know.
I mean, what nuances of her performance are we missing?
Right.
I mean, did she push herself further than ever before only for it to be lost?
Yeah.
In some, you know, studio vault somewhere?
It's like a lost masterpiece.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the traditional sense.
Right.
But the potential was there.
Absolutely.
Carmel could have been that career-defining dramatic role, a turning point in her acting career.
Yeah.
That just vanished into thin air.
It makes you think about, you know, ambition and control. You know, was she maybe outmaneuvered in a situation where she didn't have enough creative control? You know, or did the project just become something that she just didn't want to be part of anymore?
Yeah, and it makes you wonder if sometimes letting go, even though it's really difficult, can actually be a catalyst for something even better down the line.
Right.
Speaking of these creative partnerships, let's talk about Heaven's Door, the unreleased Timbaland track.
Oh yeah, this is where things get really interesting.
We've got this legendary producer, a global pop icon.
Right.
And it just seems like the perfect recipe for a smash hit R&B meets pop.
Yeah.
Tailor-made for J-Lo's style.
Yeah, it was never officially released, though.
No,
there were all these whispers about creative differences and scheduling conflicts.
Right.
And eventually it just got shelved.
And yet it still exists in this weird kind of limbo.
Right.
Because these snippets have leaked online enough to make fans crazy wanting the full version.
It's like this forbidden fruit, right? You want it even more because you can't have it.
Right.
That scarcity just adds to the mystery.
Totally. And it makes you wonder, is the song actually as good as people imagine?
That's a good question.
Or has this lack of an official release just completely romanticized it?
That's true. I mean, we do tend to elevate what we can't have.
Right.
So maybe Heaven's Door is a genuine hidden gem.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just a song.
Yeah.
But the fact that it exists at all adds another layer to her musical story, doesn't it?
It does, absolutely. Yeah. And it speaks to, her constant exploration of different sounds, her willingness to collaborate with these top-tier producers.
Absolutely.
And ultimately the unpredictable nature of that whole creative process.
It's true.
And speaking of exploring different avenues, let's move on to Harbor Lights, the TV series that J-Lo is developing.
Oh yeah, this one's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think it shows her ambition and her desire to really expand beyond just performing.
Absolutely.
This wasn't just another vanity project.
Right.
This was a gritty drama set in a coastal town.
Right.
Lots of secrets J-Lo was set to produce and even make some occasional appearances as a guest star.
So she was using her star power to bring this project to life.
Absolutely.
Networks were interested initially, but then...
Yeah, kind of went quiet.
Total radio silence, shelved during pre-production.
Yeah, you gotta think about all the stuff she had going on at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, the Las Vegas residency, filming Shades of Blue, building her beauty empire.
It was a lot.
I mean, it was a whirlwind of activity. Something had to give.
Right. And maybe Harbor Lights, with all its potential, just got caught in the crossfire.
It's possible.
But it makes you wonder, how do artists at that level make these tough decisions?
Yeah.
Which dreams do they chase?
Right.
Which ones get put on hold, knowing that they might never get back to them?
It speaks to the trade-offs, I think, that are inherent in any creative career.
Yeah.
But, magnified when you're juggling an empire like J-Lo's.
Right.
Sometimes even the most promising projects just become casualties of success.
Yeah. And this brings us to a fascinating question.
What do these shelved projects, these glimpses into roads not taken?
Yeah.
Tell us about J-Lo's artistic journey. Like, what can we learn from these dreams that were put on hold?
Right.
These paths that never quite materialized.
That's what we're going to look at next.
All right, let's dive in.
So we're looking at all these pieces, right?
Yeah.
These unfinished projects. And it's like we're trying to understand what they say about J-Lo's choices as an artist. How she's evolved over time.
Yeah. It's almost as if we've got these alternate timelines branching off from her main career path.
Right.
Like each one represents a different direction she could have gone.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that some of these shelf projects, they seem to kind of foreshadow themes or ambitions that she later revisited and actually made happen.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like, for example, Por Primera Vez, that Spanish language album, never came out. It might have seemed like a missed opportunity back then.
Yeah.
But she did eventually release a successful Spanish album, Como Ama Una Mujer.
Right. A few years later.
Years later, exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe shelving Por Primera Vez wasn't about abandoning the idea completely, but more about waiting for the right moment, for the music world to shift a little bit.
That's a good point.
For her own artistry to mature.
Maybe it was also about finding the right people to work with.
Yeah.
Or feeling more confident in her ability to navigate both the English and Spanish music markets.
Right. It really shows that she was thinking strategically.
Yeah.
That she wasn't just chasing trends, but really considering when and how to make certain creative moves.
Absolutely. And we see that same kind of intentionality in her film choices, too.
Okay.
Carmel, that thriller that got shut down mid-production.
Right.
It might have been a gamble that didn't pay off.
Yeah.
But it shows that she wanted to move past that rom-com image.
Right.
And try those darker, more complex roles.
And even though Carmel never made it to the screen,
right,
she did eventually take on more dramatic roles in films like Hustlers and The Boy Next Door.
Exactly.
Proving that she was serious about expanding her range as an actress.
So it suggests that these shelved projects weren't necessarily failures, but more like stepping stones.
Right.
Opportunities for growth and exploration that actually influenced her later successes.
Interesting.
But what about those situations where creative differences or, things outside of their control played a role?
Right.
Like with the unreleased Timbaland track, Heaven's Door.
Yeah, you've got these two huge names coming together, and yet the song never gets released properly.
It's a good reminder that even the most promising collaborations can hit a wall.
Yeah, maybe their artistic visions didn't match up, or maybe scheduling conflicts or record label issues got in the way.
And it's so interesting how those little snippets that leaked online have taken on a life of their own.
It's true.
Turning this song into this almost mythical thing that fans are desperate to hear.
It's that mystery, isn't it?
Yeah.
Knowing it exists, but you can't quite reach it.
Right.
It really fuels the imagination. But let's play devil's advocate here for a second.
Okay.
Is it possible that Heaven's Door wasn't actually that great? And that the fact that it's so rare has just made people romanticize it?
That's definitely possible.
Yeah.
We do tend to make things seem better in our heads.
Right.
Especially when they're hidden from us.
Exactly.
It's human nature.
So maybe Heaven's Door is a true hidden gem. Or maybe it's just a song that didn't live up to the hype.
Right.
Either way, it reminds us that not everything an artist creates has to be shared with everyone.
Sometimes the process of making it is enough. The exploration, the experimenting, the collaboration.
Yeah.
Those can be valuable, even if they don't result in something that gets released.
And then we have Harbor Lights, the TV series that never made it past pre-production.
Right. It's easy to think that it was just another victim of J-Lo's crazy busy schedule.
Yeah.
But it also represents her ambition to go beyond performing and into producing.
Right, to have more control.
To shape stories.
Yeah.
To create whole worlds.
She wasn't just looking for another acting job. She wanted to be a creative force behind the scenes.
Exactly.
To use her influence to bring new stories to people.
And even though Harbor Lights got shelved,
right,
that ambition didn't go away.
No, she went on to produce other successful projects.
Exactly.
Showing that her drive to create goes way beyond performing.
It's a good reminder that even huge stars have to make choices.
Yeah.
To focus on some passions over others.
Right.
And to accept that sometimes the timing just isn't right.
And those choices, those moments when they shift direction, they're just as important as the successes.
They give us valuable insights into how an artist grows.
Yeah.
Showing their resilience, their ability to adapt, and their willingness to take chances.
Even if those risks don't always work out in the way they hoped.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about all these individual projects.
Right.
Well, what does it all mean when you put it together?
I think it paints a picture of J-Lo as someone who's always evolving as an artist. Someone who's always striving to do more, to be more.
Right. She's not afraid to experiment, to try new things.
Yeah, to step out of her comfort zone.
Yeah.
Even if it means facing setbacks or having to make tough decisions.
And those setbacks, those shelved projects, they're not failures.
No, they're valuable lessons.
Right.
Moments when she had to change course that ultimately shaped her career and got her to where she is today.
We've really been digging deep into these shelved projects, and, you know, it's clear that Jennifer Lopez's career hasn't exactly been a straight shot to the top.
Yeah, not a straight line. More like, you know, one of those winding roads with detours and unexpected turns. Yeah. Maybe even a few U-turns along the way.
But she's made it work, achieving huge success in music, film, television, fashion.
Which makes it even more interesting to look at these shelved projects, right?
Right.
Because they represent those paths not taken. The what-ifs and might-have-beens that could have totally changed her career.
Like Por Primera Vez, for example, the Spanish album that got shelved.
Right.
What if releasing it had made her a Latin music superstar even earlier?
Yeah.
How would that have changed her whole music career?
It's fun to imagine how different things could have been if she'd just taken a slightly different path.
And then there's Carmel, that thriller that never got made.
Right. What if that had been her breakout dramatic role?
Yeah.
The one that showed everyone how much depth she has as an actress.
Right.
Maybe it would have led to even more challenging and interesting roles.
It's impossible to know for sure. But it does make you think about the choices artists make.
Yeah.
The roles they take, the ones they miss out on, and how those decisions shape their whole career.
It's a balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Between ambition and practicality.
Right.
Between taking risks and playing it safe.
And so many things are outside of their control, too.
Totally. Industry trends, studio politics, even just bad luck.
But even though these projects never got finished, they still tell us something important about J-Lo as an artist.
Absolutely. They show how willing she is to experiment, to push the boundaries, to step outside her comfort zone and try new things.
Like Por Primera Vez shows her strong connection to her Latin roots and her desire to connect with audiences all over the world.
And Carmel hints at wanting to be seen as a serious, dramatic actress.
Yeah.
to move past those rom-com roles and take on something more complex.
And that unreleased Timbaland track, Heaven's Door, shows her always exploring different musical styles.
Right, always wanting to work with the best producers to create something new.
And Harbor Lights, that TV show that never happened, highlights her entrepreneurial side.
Yeah.
Her desire to be more than just a performer, to actually produce, to be in charge of telling stories.
So even though these projects never got released, they still shaped who she is as an artist.
Right, they influenced her choices. And in a way, they led her to the success she has now.
It just goes to show that even the biggest stars experience setbacks.
Yeah.
They have to make tough choices. And sometimes they have to let go of projects that are really important to them.
But those experiences, those moments when they have to change course, they're not failures. They help an artist to grow and develop.
And you never know. Some of these shelved projects might come back to life someday.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Can you imagine if Por Primera Vez suddenly showed up on Spotify?
Yeah.
Or if someone found footage from Carmel and released it as a bonus feature or something.
It would be like opening a time capsule.
Right.
A glimpse into another version of J-Lo's career.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Giving fans a chance to see these hidden gems that were almost lost forever.
But even if they stay hidden away, these projects still make us curious. They remind us that there's always more to the story.
Yeah, always more to discover, even with someone as famous as Jennifer Lopez.
And that's what makes exploring these shelved projects so interesting.
It reminds us that creativity isn't always neat and tidy.
Right.
It's unpredictable, and it's full of surprises.
And that even the most successful artists have dreams that don't come true, projects they have to abandon,
paths they don't get to take.
So as you go out and create your own things, remember that sometimes the most important lessons come from those projects that don't quite get finished.
The detours, the changes in direction, the times you have to let go. Those experiences shape you as an artist just as much as the successes.
And who knows? Maybe one day those shelved projects will inspire you to try again, to explore new possibilities, to keep growing on your own creative journey.
It's all part of the process.
Well, that about wraps up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. And keep exploring those creative paths no matter where they lead.